Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Now today I've got an update on Sphinx that I showed you a few days back. I did this video, which was called Mars Sphinx 2022. And there's the cover image of that, right? There it is. Have a good look at that. Look at the eye detail there, the nose, look at the mouth, the lips. Heavily eroded and broken down, this thing, but there's enough of it intact for us to see what it is. And looks kind of familiar. The face, to me, looks like someone famous. I can't put a finger on it. So perhaps some of you could come up with something like who this looks like. Because obviously this is a human face, right? It's on Mars, but it's a human face. And it's similar to one or two of the other giant statues that I've shown, but not the same. I don't think it represents the same person. It may do. So there's that one. That's from Sol, it says here, Sol 3365. Now, this is an update that I posted also. This is 3369. So this is a few days later. And very similar to that image, okay. But we're getting closer, more detail. You can see a lot more sort of cracks and stuff in there, but it's still a bit fuzzy because it hasn't zoomed in very far. And then we have this new Gigapan I've done. And this is a new clip here. And this is from Sol 3372. And the camera zoomed in quite a long way. Here's the actual Gigapan itself. Now this isn't the complete Gigapan. This Gigapan actually comes down to about here. I wanted to get this up quick to show you. And the complete one will be up later. Which kind of, it doesn't show a lot more, the complete one. It's just more of this over here, this kind of mountainous ridge here, okay? But this is the new pan, and I've colorized it, enhanced the brightness, and there's a lot more detail to be seen in here, in the rocks and in the actual Sphinx head itself. And you can see where, if you go in really close, you can see where the eye detail is cracked, and all this is heavily eroded with wind, I would say, and the weathering has cracked the actual rock and split it into quite fine fissures like this, okay? Very interesting, very interesting. You can see what it is, and I've got a clip of it here where I've colorized it a bit more. This one here has had the background colorized so it stands out better, and it's also brighter. Okay, use the magnifier. You can see that eye detail there. It's the ear. This, I think, is part of a headdress or something that's sticking out of the side of the Sphinx head. And this, I think, here, below the nose and mouth, I think represents a beard. Here. It's all kind of eroded and broken down. Okay, so there we have it. And I've got it in here to show you some of those details a bit closer. You can see the eye is really cracked, but you can still see that that's an eye there with iris detail. But in this particular angle, from this particular angle, the shadows have moved around a bit because obviously it's a different day. So we're seeing different details on different days. And in fact, when you go back a bit, it looks more smooth and rounded. As you get in closer and more detail, you can see all the little cracks and the erosion and everything where it's eroded and broken down more. So as we get closer to it, we're seeing a lot more damage to this thing and how badly eroded it really is. Especially in this area here with all these split, wind eroded, cracked fissures in the rock, which is really weird, the way that does that. Really interesting, okay? So there it is, and it looks in worse shape the closer you get, actually. You can really see the erosion and how this has collapsed down. And this actual part here, sticking out, I think may have come right down to here, because it seems to correlate with this part here. You can see this crack and part coming there, down to there and there. So there was some kind of large headdress or some sort of detail on the side here, which is all kind of collapsed down. And we got all this rubble here, which is probably part of this, which is rolled down to here. So we got this pile of rubble. So, and there's also this weird thing here, which may represent something. Don't really know. Very strange. And there's lots of weird things in the foreground. I'll show you some of those as well. So I'll put clips of these coming up in a minute, and I'll put all these close-ups in, and there'll be clips and close-ups at the end of the video for you to look at, and you can take screenshots or use your magnifier, get in close, have a look at the detail. It's all there. We got what looks like a beard here. This structure on the side, which is all collapsed down, but some of it's still there. And then we got loads of interesting parts like this sticking out with this hollowed out part underneath. So there may be a chamber in here, okay, underneath all this stuff, like the one in Egypt. So that could be really interesting to actually go up to and investigate if you were there on the ground, I would say. And I think if you dug around this, you may even find a chamber much further down, right below it, or near the front here, below these rocks here, okay? So there may be something down here. So there's loads of weird things in the foreground. I'm just going to show you a couple of those things on the actual Gigapan page, because it's just easier to do that. There was this thing. Now, this is 3365, so this is what I put up a few days ago. There's this. So we've got the Sphinx to the right of the image, up there. And you come down to here, and there's a human head, right? Just here. Doesn't look very clear in this one, because we're not very close to it. But I've got a close-up of it. Just there. Let's go a bit closer. It's a bit pale. I brightened this up quite a lot so that we could see the actual Sphinx in better detail, but when I did that, it made it too bright in this part of the image, unfortunately. But you can see a human head there, just there, right? In colour. It's got a sort of bluish tint to it. Now in here, I've got a close-up of that. Now this is from the same Sol as the Sphinx here, the new Sphinx image, Sol 3372. And this is taken from a black and white clip, and I've colorized it. And you can see here a human looking head. You can see the eyes, nose, and mouth with lip detail kind of folding over the lower lip like that. Now, this may be carved or it may be petrified. I don't know. There's not really enough detail and information in this image to say either way, but by the way the lips are, even in the raw image here, you can see that they're a bit kind of contorted and shriveled like this, right? Now that's the sort of detail you would normally get in a mummified or petrified head, not necessarily a carving, but I could be wrong. The level of some of this carving and artwork on Mars was very high, much like you would see in Egypt or ancient Greece or ancient Rome perhaps. And very high standard, a lot of it. Some of it's very crude, but some of it is of a very high standard. And we may be seeing here just a very, very well carved object that's broken. It seems to have part of the head missing here. Should have come around like this. So this is kind of broken off here, right? And there does seem to be damage to it, of course, but we're not seeing it in great detail. If you get too close to it, it doesn't get any clearer, okay? So here we have the Gigapan. Now this will be uploaded hopefully by the time you see this video. This is the Gigapan, right? Now this is showing that ridge that I've shown before, this ridge of rocks here like a wall, or some kind of weird line of extremely eroded material here. So it's like mudstone, and it's highly eroded, and it's like fine little layers of it, right? So there's a lot of detail in here. But up here is that head. Now this is a lot closer than the other view of it that we saw from the other Gigapan. And if you don't get too close, you can see it in quite good detail. You can see those eyes, you can see the nose, and you can see the mouth. with the lip folding over the bottom lip. And there's distortion in here. Now that may be erosion or damage to the carving, or this may represent an actual mummified head from a burial that's mineralized. It may be 1 million years old, it may be 500,000 years old, it may only be 25,000 years old. There's no way to actually tell exactly how old this is. But I would say that the Sphinx itself, right, that we've got here, is probably around 500,000 years old. Now, the age of this and the weathering on this really depends on whether you believe NASA's data and information about the air pressure. Why does that count? Well, when you look at the striations and wind erosion going through this rock, it's important to know exactly what the wind speeds are and what the air pressure is. Now, if the air pressure is less than 1% of Earth's, which is what NASA have been claiming for decades and decades now, then even strong winds wouldn't do much damage, which means this would take an awful long time to erode into this state. So it could be 500,000 years old, or it could be 1 million years old. Now, I think the air pressure on Mars is higher than NASA are telling us, because we now see the Ingenuity helicopter flying on Mars, which means it must be higher, because there's no way, even with the increased rotor speed, which is 3 times faster than a helicopter on Earth, and the much lighter weight of the actual copter, and the less gravity, which is only 1/3, just over 1/3, it's still too heavy to fly in a very, very thin atmosphere. So the atmosphere is thicker. I would say around 7% of ours, maybe 10%, could be even higher. I don't know. But one thing is for sure, it's more than less than 1% that they tell us it is. I actually saw one NASA guy on Twitter the other day say it was 1.4. So it does go up and down, but it's still not enough to fly a helicopter. So how the hell is the helicopter flying? So it either has some kind of anti-gravity unit inside it, which I doubt, or the atmosphere is thicker. If the atmosphere is thicker, then this erosion would have only probably taken 500,000 years or less. Maybe only 50,000 or 100,000. But unless I know the exact figure of the air density, which we're not getting from NASA, I don't think, and I've been saying this for a long time, unless we know that exact figure and we know what the real air density is, then I cannot tell you how old this is, because that really determines the amount of wind erosion and how these things age over time, how the stone erodes away. So this is a problem, aging these things. And this is probably related to the Sphinx, or at least maybe around the same sort of age or later. I would imagine this is part of a burial or statue that was here and is broken or damaged, okay? And there it is in colour, but it's very pasty on here. So the overall view suggests to me that there were probably chambers in these ridges here with burials in, and then the Sphinx here. Then we have another structure here which is broken down here. There may have been a large pillar here on the end. So this looks like a building here, all filled in with sand, like I said before, okay? And there's loads of weird things on the ground, so have a look at these. I'm sure you will find some stuff. There's loads of weird things on the ground here. And in the black and white version, you can see some of them closer. There's that, just there, the damaged head. And then there's a weird sort of thing over here, which looks a bit like a helmet, just here, right? Which is really nicely shaped. Might just be a rock, but it's very nicely shaped. I would say rather too nicely to be just a random rock. There's loads of weird things here, and you can't really work out what they are, but I'm sure some of them are not just random rocks. Look at the details. This is really old, okay? So it's anything between 50,000 and 1 million years old, I would say. It may be much older, okay? But until we know the exact air pressure, which I think NASA are lying about, we cannot age this to an exact sort of, or rough year, okay? Within sort of 1,000 years or 500 years. We can't do that. But that helicopter doesn't have fly around, and it flies around very fast, and it's very agile. Now that says to me that there's a lot more air pressure lower down in the first sort of 30 feet of the atmosphere than we've been told. What I'll do also is I'll put some of these clips in as well, because I've got another angle on this hairy skull that I found a while back, a couple of weeks ago. There's another angle of it here. This is the hairy skull, right? This is Sol 3331. Showed this recently. This is a side angle of it, and you can see the teeth there and the eye sockets, but there's this weird shiny object sticking on the back of it here, which may be behind it, right? So there's something directly behind it. It's very strange. But you can see those details in the face, and you can see the actual teeth there. It's not much detail. There's also an update on this one, which is that weird skull that had the sort of bright eyes. I call it bright eyes, I think. Yeah, bright eyes. And this is a side view of that, okay? This is from Sol 3329, and this one here in the middle is 3331, right? So from that angle, we got these bright eyes, but from this angle, on a different day, because the sun's at a different angle, it looks quite different. You can see the mouth there, you can see the eyes and the nose there. So, like I said, it's got a very short little nose, just there. But the eyes look completely different on a different day. So they may be sort of reflective, or have made of reflective material, right? Which has caught the sun on that day, but not this day. So, but you can see the eyes there. Okay, so a bit of an update on those. So thanks for watching, everybody. Clips coming up now.